Finally, a 44 Magnum load made for self-defense. And what we have today is our Federal HST 44 Magnum. And I'm going to compare that to our Federal HST 45 ACP+P that's been around for a long time. So, you know, the market's really lacking in 44 Magnum designed for CCW or home defense, personal protection. And you pretty much never see anything that really bridges the gap between 44 Special and 44 Magnum. Now, Federal HST came out with one that does. And it's a 230 grain jacket of hollow point rated at only 1,085 feet per second. So just a little over 600 foot-pounds of energy. And I'm going to compare that to our 45 ACP+P, 230 grain again. That's rated at 950 feet per second. And I know Hornady came out with, you know, I think it was either a distributor exclusive or a limited run of 44 Magnum Critical Defense way back in like 2011. And that used a 165 grain bolt, the same one they use in their 44 Special load. But other than that, I've never really seen a mainstream Magnum, 44 Magnum, that was designed for self-defense that was kind of lower powered. And as was that Critical Defense, it was like 1,300 feet per second, 165 grain, 600 foot-pounds, something like that. So I'm really curious of what we're going to get here with a load from 44 Magnum that is really designed for concealed carry. And you know, it makes sense to come out with something like that because of the Model 69 existing and both the 2 3/4 inch and the 4 1/4 inch barrel, as well as the 329 PD and other various revolvers that, you know, people actually do carry. So we're going to see what we get with these. So I'm going to go through the chronograph, see what kind of velocity and accuracy I get at the same time. Then I'm going to do my ballistic gel test. I'm going to do plain 10% clear ballistics right into a plain clear ballistics gel, no denim in the way to clog a hollow point or anything like that, to see what our best potential is. And then I'm going to move on to a real world simulation where I'm going to have 4 layers of denim on this first 3-inch piece that represents a pectoral muscle. After that, a 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard to represent hitting ribs or sternum, 16 more inches of clear ballistics, and then another 1/4 inch MDF at the back of 16 inches to represent hitting back ribs. So I'll do a shot of plain clear ballistic shot and then our real world simulation, a shot of that. And by the way, clear ballistics is roughly half representation of flesh. So when I'm talking 3 inches and 16 inches, you know, with ribs on each side, you know, it's roughly half the density. So it's more like 1.5 inch pectoral muscle and then 8 inches. So we're really talking about a 9.5 inch individual with ribs in there. So plain clear ballistic shot, then a real world simulation shot, and then I will shoot at the steel target to see what kind of practical accuracy and shootability I can get with these. So let's get started with this test. All right, first up we have our 45 ACP+P. We're rated at 950 feet per second. Both these are 230 grains. So let's see what we get with our 45 ACP. See how close we get to 950. 932. 948, 916, 942, 935. So just a little bit below our rated velocity. Now our 44 Magnum, we were rated at 1,085 feet per second through a 4-inch barrel, and this is a 4 1/4 inch. So let's see how close I get to 1085. 1201, 1172. 1184, 1173. I did pull that one a little bit to the right there, so I didn't get a read. But those 4 were consistent enough that I'm going to take those numbers. Definitely above what they're saying its rated velocity is. So case ejection for me isn't great. I do have a Patreon supporter that is sending over a chamber home for this, but actually not as bad as some of the rounds I've tried to extract. So yeah, it's a little bit warm, but the recoil actually isn't that bad though. The recoil would suggest it is at 1085 feet per second, so not bad recoil at all. So let's let our ballistics gel block, see how these compare. All right, our first shot, the plain clear ballistics, no denim in the way to clog a hollow point or anything like that. See how our 45 ACP+P does. All right, hit that with our 44 Magnum. Let's go take a look. All right, so both of them stopped in that first block there, but that 44 mag, wow. Like, come out the back of that there. You see the difference between the 45 ACP and the 44 Magnum. That just really cut that thing up. Massive cut starting in that first block there too. Just way more energy dump with that 44 mag. Now, yeah, we expected that, but I wasn't expecting that much more. Just a massive amount of energy dump tearing through this entire thing. So our 45 ACP, we went to 14, I'll give it 14¼ inches. Really big expansion. The 44 mag, we went right to 18 inches exactly. And again, really big expansion. That's really impressive. Let's put on our denim, put in our rib simulation, see how these compare in our real world simulation. All right, 4 layers of denim, 3 inches of clear ballistics, followed by a 1/4 inch MDF to represent hitting ribs with SHRM, 16 more inches of clear ballistics, another rib simulation at the back of that. Let's see how our 45 ACP+P does. All right, let me set this back up and we'll hit the 44 Magnum. All right, real world simulation 44 mag. Let's see what this does. We'll take a look. All right, so we had a lot of shifting around with that 44 mag. So that's still a 44 mag, no matter how you look at it. That's still a 44 mag because hit with a lot of damage. Now our 45 ACP is fantastic as well. And we look at our first rib simulation, both of them had fantastic expansion going through that. So a lot of energy dump, a lot of expansion. That's really impressive. That's bigger than what I see with most cartridges. Energy dump is a little bit greater with our 44 Magnum, but our 45 ACP is still really good. So our 45 ACP+P, we went to 16 inches. We had a little bit inconsistent expansion, but still pretty good overall. Now our 44 Magnum, it punched right back, right through the back rib simulation here. Really big and really decent expansion overall. So if we look at this track of how deep that went, that went right to about, because I took that rib simulation out, I'm going to go just a hair past that. We went to about 21 inches. So it did over penetrate, but not by a great amount. And this is one of those rare situations where it's like over penetration kind of doesn't matter. And the reason why is because oftentimes over penetration means that you didn't get expansion. That's why it over penetrated. But if you were to get full expansion, and then you were to push that bullet, you know, right to the back of an attacker, or it might pass, you know, out the back and be caught by the t-shirt on the back of them, or even come out and move a little bit of a distance. It kind of doesn't matter. It's not really a fail because it did fully expand to do all its damage. As where it's a little bit different when a non-expanding bullet over penetrates. So fantastic performance with both of these. But with that 44 mag, you ensured to get a lot of penetration. So we got really good penetration without it really, what I would say, over penetrating. So not by much. So let's pull these out of the block. I'll take a close-up look at them. Then I'll shoot our steel, see what kind of practical accuracy and shootability I can get with these. All right, so here's a close-up look at these bullets going through plain gel, our 45 ACP+P and our 44 Magnum. You know, both are 230 grain. You almost can't tell the difference between the both of these. So our 45 ACP does look a little bit bigger. And our 44 Magnum, still really big. Now, the difference comes in our real world simulation where things change up quite a bit. Our 45 ACP is still pretty big, but it does look like, you know, we just didn't have that consistent of expansion. As when we look at our 44 Magnum, the petals peeled back. So it did all of its damage, then the petals peeled back. So our 44 Magnum is definitely a little bit more consistent. Even though I think it's a little bit smaller left over, that doesn't mean that this did better necessarily. So very good performance all around, but I'd say our 44 Magnum did a little bit better. So that's a close-up look at those. All right, 14 yards from the target. It's starting to storm, so I'm just going to finish up here, see how these feel for just shootability for me. And that's one big thing with 44 Magnum. it's almost unshootable in a lot of ways where you can't get follow-up shots very well. So I want to see what I could get here with these. So first up, our 45 ACP. Let's see how the follow-up shots do for me. So 14 yards, 42 feet. I'm just gonna get a front sight picture, pop these off as fast as I think I can hit the target. So 45 ACP+P. All right. Not too bad overall. 44 Magnum. Let's see if I can control this thing. So it does have a good amount of recoil, but the difference is that I can pretty much bring it back down target in a really smooth fashion. A lot of times 44 Magnum, you get this recoil where it's like, once it leaves 45 degrees and it comes up here, it almost takes like a second type of skill to be able to like, oh, I gotta do this, and now I'll do this. As where this went to pretty much the maximum, that you can still kind of be like, oh, it's only like this, and my wrist bringing it down naturally will do it automatically. So yes, it recoiled a lot, but it was like to the level where it's like a natural push back down, which is kind of what you feel with 357 Magnum, 158 grain, something like that. So I would say overall, this is a pretty good load. Very, very impressive. And no matter what you look at, when you look at those bullets and you see what those bullets look like, one thing you can say is that that damage in that gel is absolutely one of the worst I've ever seen with that 44 Magnum. Worst as in better, or better as in worse, however you want to word it. A lot of damage going on in there. So my gut feeling tells me I don't think you'd need more than one round to stop a threat, because it did a lot of damage. Our 45 ACP+P was close, but just not quite there. You know, it didn't move that block around so much as where this 44 Magnum really, really did quite well. So very interesting here. I'm glad I got to test this stuff, and I definitely would recommend it as a carry round because it, you know, it was higher than its rate of velocity. It's a true Magnum. It absolutely is a true Magnum. But it's more in the 45 super range for its energy, and it's pretty controllable. I mean, it's not super easy to shoot, but it's pretty controllable. So that's what you get today. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.